Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It is 7:20 in the morning East Coast time, Tuesday, June 4th, and we have a massive MLB slate today. 15 gamer. I apologize if the sound sounds a little bit muffy at the start. I'm uploading the coveted right now, this NBA Finals breakdown video, my projections and everything on that for Game 3. So that's uploading. It's doing a little bit of work, but it should not last too long. This is a first look for me. I have obviously my sheet generated. There's going to be some missing spots because at the bottom we have a guy who has not yet started this year. We have another guy who's only started, I believe, once in Genesis Cabrera, so there's not enough data to generate some of his batted ball stuff. So that's just pointing that out right there if you're trying to take a screenshot of this. But yeah, it's sort of a first look for me. I have not broken down into it again. I just got up at 5-ish and did an NBA video, and now I'm getting up and branching over into MLB, but I wanted to make sure to get the video out there for everybody as soon as I could. And I want to address something, and first off, welcome to the channel. My name is Sal Vetri, so hope you enjoy this content, whether it is the MLB, if you're stumbling upon this from the NBA or NFL streets. I do cover MLB as well. I try and cover it in a different type of manner, and I'm about to explain that. I cover it from a pitcher's standpoint, and I do hit on bats in that standpoint. Maybe not specific names, although I also do that as well, like discussing Eric Hosmer and the lefties that are going to be having a good matchup in a previous show that I just did. But I can't hit on the entire batter sheet, right? I have a hitter sheet, and people say, "Show us your hitter sheet, Sal." This is my hitter sheet. It's not done. It's nowhere near done. Look at all these weird things. This is not even updated. Like there's projections, but they're not done. Nothing is done yet. I don't do a single thing until 3 or 4 if I'm playing that slate, and it doesn't get done until 4:35-ish with my hitters because I need to know Vegas lines, which are usually all out by noon. I need to know Vegas lines, and I also need to know, number 2, I need to know what the batting orders are looking like, or at least some of the batting orders, so I can get something into my model. So for me to have a Vegas or a hitter sheet done at 7 a.m. and some people being nice about it in the comments, some people being like, "Dude, just show us your hitter sheet." First off, I don't have it, so I can't, and it's just a little bit not realistic for me to have that at 7 in the morning, even if I didn't do an NBA video, because there's just no information out there yet. So that's the idea behind it. I can't just pull bunnies out of a rabbit. Wow, that was bad. Rabbits out of a hat. Jesus. But yeah, that's the information behind that. So let's just get this started. A lot of Vegas lines are out. There's 2 games that are not right now by 7:20, again, East Coast time. And I'm not going to go through all 30 pitchers here. I'm just going to key on some things. But something that's important to look at is that there's 6 $10,000+ pitchers, and then there's 2 or 3 at 95 or above. So there's a ton of expensive pitching. And usually you'll see that on these bigger slates, but not to this degree. So Steven Strasburg all the way at the top at 11.5, coming off of a very good start in the last game. People saying, "Oh, this guy doesn't like the warm weather. Atlanta's going to dominate him." He played really well. He got like 10 Ks, went like 7 innings, 30+ fantasy points and a win. Steven Strasburg tied for the biggest favorite on the slate today with Blake Snell against Detroit, and these guys are both in great spots. If there's a way today to pay up for 2 expensive pitchers, it could be viable. Obviously, there's always going to be guys in that 6-7 K range that you can pair with an expensive stud, and 25% of the time, the stars and scrub build for pitching is what actually wins, and that's a pretty good percentage. It doesn't sound like a lot, but 1 in 4 times, if you're going by that nature all the time, you're going to start to do really well. But Strasburg's in an attractive spot because, sure, the stadium in Washington is not built in terms of being hitter-friendly, but Strasburg's only giving up 0.8 home runs per 9. He's not giving up any hard hit percentage, and this White Sox team just doesn't hit the ball hard at all. They're one of the highest strikeout rates on the slate at 28.5. So yeah, Strasburg's in an ideal spot. He's a great pitcher, so he has to be in your player pool. But there's so many pitchers in great spots up here. A guy at 11.3 in Ryu. He's a great player. He's a high win upside guy today, but everything about him says, why the hell would you play Ryu at 11.3 when you have Blake Snell at 11,000? You have Steven Strasburg at 11.5 in much better matchups. Ryu today facing Arizona, that doesn't strike out. They have a lot of pop. Ryu has been getting very lucky, although his SIERA is still 3.27. That's really good, but he's nowhere near as good as his 1.48 ERA is indicating. He's not that great. Doesn't walk guys, which is good. Doesn't give up home runs. But the matchup overall today, especially the fact that his strikeout stuff is nowhere near as good as Steven Strasburg's or Blake Snell's this year, and he's facing a team that doesn't strike out, it's pretty easy to avoid Ryu today at that price. So Steven Strasburg for sure. And then Blake Snell, $11,000. He's also in play. He has to be. He's facing Detroit that does not have power. Their power is slowly increasing. They're starting to hit more and more home runs, not just at the top of that order with Nick Castellanos, but Christian Stewart starting to hit some, Nico Goodrum starting to hit some. You get the catcher and Greener starting to hit some at the bottom of that order. It's looking pretty good, but Detroit overall still striking out a ton. You're in a hitter-friendly ballpark here now in Detroit. They strike out close to 30% of the time, and Blake Snell's strikeout stuff is the best on the slate. It is better than Steven Strasburg's this year. He's getting the most swings and misses in the league. So yeah, Blake Snell, I slightly, as of right now, favor a little bit more than Strasburg, just because you're going to get the save $500, and I think you get a pitcher in a better matchup and definitely a better ballpark. Blake Snell, if there's a couple more things to hit on, 7.1 walk percentage is a little bit high, 1.17 home runs per 9. It's definitely higher than Strasburg's stuff, so he's not as deceptive in that nature. He's not getting hit, though, from either side of the plate, neither is Strasburg. Look, these guys are up here for a reason in the $11,000 range. So $11,000 range, I like Blake Snell, I like Strasburg. I probably like Blake Snell a little bit more, but as of right now, I have both of them in my player pool. I have not yet decided. Frankie Montas at 10-4, first guy in the 10K range. Look, there's no way. There's no way you play Frankie Montas at $10,400. I know he's been good, but this is a very steep price on a guy, and you're going to tell me that he's playing the Los Angeles Angels, who don't strike out, who have some pop. Frankie Montas does not have the greatest strikeout stuff. He's going deeper into games, 5.82 innings pitched per game, but I don't want him. And actually, I'm going to switch my take. I think I like Strasburg more than Blake Snell, and that's the main reason. Depth into games. Blake Snell's averaging 5.56 innings pitched per game, so 5 2/3 innings per game. You have Steven Strasburg averaging 5.6, so an extra inning per game is what Strasburg's getting, and they're both facing teams that don't work the count deep. So I do think I prefer Strasburg to Blake Snell, but again, they're both great options today. I have to see what my bats do in terms of building lineups. No way against Frankie Montas. 10-1, Luis Castillo, Cincinnati against St. Louis. He's a slight favorite here. A lot of things to like about Luis Castillo. His ground ball rate is the highest on the slate at 61%, so that's good. He's not getting into trouble, only 22.9% fly ball rate, and that leads to a very low 0.65 home runs per 9. The problem is he walks a lot of guys. He's been getting into trouble, and he's been walking these guys at an increasing rate his last 2 to 3 starts, which means that that's something to stay away from. Red flag, 11.4 walk percentage, his 2.45 ERA, he's getting extremely lucky, 3.83 Sierra, so maybe not extremely, but he's getting lucky. He does have good strikeout stuff, right around 29%, but the matchup is not something I want. St. Louis actually works the counts deep, and they don't strike out. They hit the ball hard, especially fastballs. A guy that I would like here today is Matt Carpenter, a good amount. He hits fastballs well. That's Luis Castillo's probably favorite pitch to throw, so I don't want Castillo at 10-1. That's just too expensive for guys that I'd rather pay $1,000 more for. Chris Paddock, he's been struggling as of late. Last time out, he gave up 2 solo home runs back-to-back in the first inning. I think the first 2 batters maybe even, against the New York Yankees. He gets a matchup against Philadelphia today, and this is not an ideal matchup. Talk about working the counts deep. Philadelphia, I believe they lead the league in pitches seen per at bat. They have a decent amount of pop. This is a ballpark that does not favor the pitcher. I think Chris Paddock is a great pitcher. $10,000. I think you're probably going to get him at very low ownership, so he'll stay in my player pool because of that low ownership. He's $10,000, but if that means that I can't pitch Steven Strasburg or Blake Snell today, I'm not going to do it. The matchups are just that much better, and these guys are just that much better than Paddock right now. So he stays in the player pool right now, but very loosely. He's not a guy that I figure I'm going to get to at all. So that's the 10K and above range. Let's continue to go down. Let's start the way bottom, and we'll hit the 4 and 5K range, and then I'll just pick pieces around this middle range because I can't really talk about 30 pitchers. I'll just be here for 2 hours. Nobody wants that. Andrew Moore might be the starter today. I don't think he's been named the starter. He's a candidate to start today against Houston. In Seattle, he's only $4,000, but again, we don't even know if he's the starter. Houston doesn't strike out. This is not a guy that I want. We don't know if he's only going to be an opener, so just kind of halt on that until we get more news. If they say that he's going to start, not be the opener, and he can maybe get you 4 or 5 innings, and we can look at his minor league stuff at that point, maybe, but right now I don't really want any of that. Glenn Sparkman against Boston KC here. He's been absolutely terrible. He got a Sierra of a 4.83, just doesn't go deep into games at all, 2.52, and how many games does he actually pitch? Is he an opener? Because I don't want to be talking about him if he is. I have no idea who the openers are. Why would I? Why would I? I don't really play them. So no, he's just a probable. Yeah, he's pretty much an opener, right? He's pitched into the 7th once, but really for the most part, he's only been pitching at most 3 innings. So if he has no win upside for you, and he's facing Boston today, who can very much get him out of the game, and probably he'll only stay in the game for 2 innings, I don't want any Glenn Sparkman. Ronaldo Lopez today against Washington. This is very interesting. Now, if you're going to be playing Steven Strasburg, it's interesting and kind of not a good idea to play Lopez because you don't get the win upside 4 points from both players. He's got a terrible Sierra, one of the highest on the slates at a 5.18. Shows that he's getting a little bit unlucky, though. Gives up 2 home runs per 9, 10% walk percentage, 27% ground ball rate. This guy's terrible. The only thing that's good here is that Washington strikes out a lot. So if you want to tell me anything about Ronaldo Lopez that you like, he does strike out righties at a decent clip. 25% is the highest anywhere near this price point range. And he's a very rocky pitcher, but it's scary for sure. He goes at least 5 1/3, 5 2/3 per game. So in terms of his pitches or his depth into games at 5,200, he's in the range of where guys in the 7K, the low 7K range, are getting deep into games. So he gets deep into the games. He doesn't have any strikeout stuff to lefties. He actually has decent strikeout stuff to righties, and Washington strikes out a lot. Look, I'm not telling you this is the play of the day, but he's $5,200, and I think he's a viable $5,200 guy in Ronaldo Lopez. Ryan Carpenter at 5,600. I don't really want any of this. I like Blake Snell once again. I don't really think Ryan Carpenter has any type of win upside here. He's only going about 4 2/3 depth into games, so he's not going to get me any depth, and there's no way I just can get to him over Ronaldo Lopez. The thing that's nice about him, at least, and really there's not much, would be that the ballpark is in his favor, but that's not enough to weight him over a guy in Ronaldo Lopez, and at this point, I don't want to take a risk there. Clayton Richard is the worst pitcher on the slate as of right now. 6.59 Sierra shows that he's getting extremely unlucky, or shows that he's getting extremely lucky, because if you just look at his ERA at 3.38, you might say, oh my God, how is he so cheap? 6.59 Sierra, giving up an 18% walk percentage. This guy has to have not had played long, right? He cannot have been playing that long. There's no way he is. Okay, I was going to say he has 2 starts. Okay, so he's gone to 4 innings in both starts. He's thrown 81 pitches in the last start, threw 54 in the first one, so that's good, because I was seeing an 18% walk percentage. I was like, there's no way you have an 18% walk percentage and you have pitched a lot and they're still in the majors, walking 1 out of 5 guys. So, yeah, I don't want any of that against the Yankees today. That's not great. This is a team that just doesn't strike out. He has no strikeout stuff. He's not going deep into games. That's obvious. So that is the 4 to 6, 5K range. Now we have the 6, 7, 8, and 9K range left. So I'll try and pick things apart and talk a little bit quicker and find spots that I think are very, very good. One of those spots is not Shane Bieber facing Minnesota. I don't even want to go in depth there. He has good strikeout stuff, one of the higher ones on the slate, but he's facing Minnesota today. He goes deep into games, but he's facing Minnesota. It's as simple as that. The most chalky pitcher on the slate is probably going to be Noah Syndergaard. Or maybe you get up to the high range. Noah Syndergaard is $9,600 today. He has been struggling as of late, but he's going 6 1/3 innings per game. That is very deep into the games. That is priced up to similar to where those top guys are with Ryu and Strasburg. But he's facing the San Francisco Giants today, a team that doesn't strike out as much, but it's a ballpark in New York that's going to help Noah Syndergaard a lot. The Giants have been hitting home runs more as of late, getting more power, but they just have no power overall still. Syndergaard does get hit from the right side of the plate, so if you were to say, okay, I want to try and get some leverage today, I would say play some one-offs in the San Francisco game, play some righties, play some Panics or Buster Posies or whoever's in that middle of that lineup at the righty position. Syndergaard's strikeout stuff has been down this year, but again, he's getting a Giants team that his stuff should be overpowering for them. His ERA shows that he's getting a bit unlucky. 4.9 ERA, but only a 3.8 Sierra. 3.8 Sierra is actually decent for the slate. Not walking a lot of guys. The home run rate's a little bit higher than you'd like at a 1.19, but he's not getting hit hard. That should come down. This matchup bodes well for Noah Syndergaard all around, but I think a lot of people are going to be on him, and a lot of people know that. Kyle Kendricks we'll go down one more. Kyle Kendricks today at in Wrigley Field. He faces Colorado, so this is a much different Colorado team when they're not in Coors Field. He's a 200 favorite, a -200 favorite, a huge favorite today. The strikeout stuff just isn't there this year for me, and I don't want it. I don't want it against a team in Colorado that strikes out a decent amount of the time, not anything crazy, has a lot of power, and you're just not getting any strikeout stuff from a guy in Kyle Kendricks who, yes, he's working decent into games, 6.36 innings per game. That's pretty good. He might be a decent pivot off of Noah Syndergaard, but his strikeout stuff, it's just not there. It is similar, though, to Syndergaard's, but at least Syndergaard can strike out guys from both sides of the plate. Kendricks is having problems just striking out righties, and he gets only 17% righty strikeout. That's not good, especially when most of the batters you're going to see are righties in this Colorado offense. So that's easy for me. Masahiro Tanaka at 9,300 is interesting. He's a guy who's up and down. He's the hardest guy to get right, I would say, in fantasy baseball. But now he's a big favorite, -174 favorite, which means he has really good win upside today. He's in Toronto, which is a park that's, it favors hitters, if anything. It's pretty neutral, but it's better than being in Yankee Stadium, I would say. And he gets a Toronto team that strikes out 29.5% of the time, the highest strikeout rate on the slate, or pretty much right around there with this Detroit team. They don't have any power. He does give up hard hit contact, which is bad. His strikeout stuff is just down overall, but he's a guy who goes streaky. He can get 7 Ks today, or he can go 3. His depth into games, 5.84, is pretty good, especially for this price range. So Tanaka would be in my player pool as this 9K guy. Him and Noah Syndergaard I like. Bumgarner I'm not going to get to against the Mets, although I think Bumgarner at $9,000 flat is fine. I think his strikeout rate against lefties is impressive, so a guy like Michael Conforto is in trouble today. But if you want to take one-offs against him, it's the right side of the plate. I think Pete Alonso's in a very good position today, outside of the ballpark not being in a great spot, but he's in a very good position to at least hit Bumgarner hard, because he does give up hard hit percentage, and a lot of that is to righties. There's some nice pricings in this. There's some nice price players in this price point. Griffin Canning. I love Griffin Canning. I really, really like Griffin Canning. I think he's going to be one of the better pitchers in this league in 2 or 3 years. He gets a matchup against Oakland today, though. That is not great. He's 8,500, which is a good price point. And if you play him, you're betting on pure talent. He's a slight favorite here. But the problem with Griffin Canning today, he has great strikeout stuff, especially against lefties. But the problem is Oakland just doesn't strike out. Oakland doesn't strike out. It's a pitcher-friendly ballpark, and Oakland doesn't have the most power in the world. It's around average for the slate. If anything, it's benefiting Griffin Canning. But 22% strikeout rate is the second lowest on the slate, third lowest, right around there. So I don't think I can get there for a guy who's only going 5 1/3 into the games. And for 8,500, you can go up a little bit more, maybe $1,000 more, get to a Noah Syndergaard who's going to be going an extra inning into games facing teams that have a much worse strikeout rate. So, yeah, I like Griffin Canning just in general, but I don't think this is the spot for him against Oakland. I don't think we can kind of take our shot there. Wade Miley at 8,200 against Seattle is just too scary. Seattle does strike out a lot, but their slate second place ISO today with a 222 ISO. This is a pitcher-friendly ballpark, which is nice. He does go deep into games, Wade Miley, 5.76 innings per game. I think he's a fine GPP play today, because what you're betting on here is that Wade Miley can actually stay into the game until close to the sixth, not give up any home runs. He does have decent strikeout stuff, gets you six strikeouts if he can go 6 innings. And then at 8,200, you have a pitcher who's nice. But this is the way that this slate is. Wade Miley would usually be probably in the 7K range. He just seems too expensive at the $8,200 price point, especially when you have other guys around him. You have Eduardo Nunez at $8,000, a very streaky pitcher, but he's a minus 180 favorite today, a huge favorite against these Royals. These Royals that have a lot of power, these Royals that don't strike out nearly as much as the other teams on this slate. I don't think I want to pitch Eduardo Nunez today at $8,000. Not giving up a ton of hard hit contact, but not really having the best strikeout stuff, around 24%. I would say that with Eduardo Nunez, you are looking to stack, if anything, lefties against him. He gives up a 346 ISO to lefties. Now, that's not adjusted, so that might seem high to you. But yeah, he's giving up a ton of pop to lefties. Might be a smaller sample, but yeah, I'm not going to get there. So we just went through the 8K range. So let's just recap 8K and above, and then we can finish with the 6 and 7K. 8K and above very quickly. And again, this is more of a first look than anything. I love Strasburg and I love Blake Snell at the top. It's going to be seeing how you can fit the bats in to get to one of those guys. If you're crazy and you try and get to 2, you're going to be playing a bunch of 2K bats, which I do not recommend. If I had to pick right now, gun to my head, I would pick Strasburg over Blake Snell for the extra $500 because Strasburg just goes deeper into games. He's more efficient. He goes into the 7th inning way more than Blake Snell will. And I believe Strasburg probably touches the 7th inning tonight in his matchup. Compared to Blake Snell and his. If we then jump down to the 10K range, there's really nothing in the 10K range that I want. I would pick Chris Paddack, if anything, due to the price point, and I do think that if there's any pitcher tonight in the 10K range, and that is appropriately priced, it would be Paddack. I think Castillo's too priced up too much, especially when you take into account walk percentage in his matchup. Frankie Montas is definitely priced up way too much on his matchup. He should not be owned at all tonight. The Angels team just doesn't strike out. 9K range, I think Shane Bieber's matchup's too scary. It's easy for me to stay away. I think Kyle Kendrick is priced up to a point where, yes, he's a big favorite, but not a guy that I really want to get in there and pay that much for without strikeout stuff based on his matchup. Noah Syndergaard, profile's not similar to Kyle Kendrick's, actually, but I think the matchup is definitely better in terms of doesn't have as much pop, and his depth into games I do like. I like Noah Syndergaard at 96. I think Tanaka is a scary option at 9,300. I probably don't get there. I would prefer Syndergaard, but if Syndergaard's ownership is going to go through the roof, I think Tanaka's a decent pivot when you take into account his matchup against the Toronto Blue Jays today. 8K range. Nothing stands out off the page for me in the 8K range outside of the fact that Wade Miley is averaging 5.76 innings per game. That's pretty good, getting to the 6th inning a lot. Griffin Canning is not getting that deep into games, and when you factor in he's not going to get strikeouts today because this Oakland team just makes contact, that's not something that I really want to play around with at 8,500. Eduardo Rodriguez, I'd rather stack lefties against him. If anything in the 8K range, I'd probably get to Wade Miley, the total is not out yet on this game, but based on the fact that Seattle is probably going to pitch a guy named Andrew Moore off the streets today, I imagine that Wade Miley will be the favorite here. 7K range, we got about 5 guys, so let's just go through them quickly. I think Jared Eichhoff is fine. Is Jared Eichhoff off the DL? I thought he went on to the DL. Is this not right? So Jared Eichhoff starting today, and that's obviously going to be good, but there's a couple of reasons that it might not be. So Chris Paddack going up against him might drive it so that Chris Paddack is the favorite, but Jared Eichhoff at $7,100 today, he's only going 5 1/3 innings per game, but now you're in the price point where $7,100, that's fine. You're not really too worried, but he's been pitching really bad all year long. Gives up hard hit percentage, does not get ground balls, gives up fly balls, 1.86 home runs per 9. I'm tempted to just stack the Padres against him. Gives up a lot of pop to both sides of the plate, especially lefties. So if you're listening to this, my batter sheet is not done, but the Padres against Jared Eichhoff, especially lefties, are a good spot. Now the Padres do strike out a bunch, so if you did want to take a shot on Eichhoff, you could, but he's just not a guy getting any strikeout stuff. 19.4 K rate to lefties, 23.26 to righties. I don't want to play Jared Eichhoff here, even if he is going 5 1/3. I would much rather stack the Padres against him in a hitter-friendly ballpark and they do have pop, and I probably favor the left side of the plate there. Chase Anderson, Milwaukee versus Miami. He's a big favorite at -174. He's only going 3.22 innings per game. Is this a guy who has not played much, or is he just an opener? Or does he just suck? So he started the year as sort of an opener. Now he's been pitching more so the 4th, the 5th. He got 94 pitches in the last game, so he's actually getting in there. So I guess he started as an opener. Now he's actually getting some starts. So Chase Anderson against a Miami team that strikes out a ton, does not have a lot of power in a ballpark that slightly benefits the pitchers. This guy obviously at this point does not have much strikeout stuff, gives up pop to lefties, although there's not much pop in this Miami lineup. So 7,200, obviously, anytime you see Detroit or Miami or even San Fran on the opposite side, or you kind of take your shot on them. So Chase Anderson would be in my player pool at 7,200. But at that point, I might just say screw it and save $2,000 and go all the way down to Ronaldo Lopez. Dylan Bundy, 7,400 against Texas. Dylan Bundy is a guy who does have strikeout stuff, especially against righties, around a 30% strikeout rate. But he also gives up home runs, especially to righties. 327 home run rate to righties. Dylan Bundy is a guy who will get a lot of strikeouts, will go deep into games, 5 1/3 at this price point. That's fine. But Texas is a team that strikes out a decent amount. So this is the exact Dylan Bundy matchup. A team that has power. They'll hit home runs off of him, but he'll strike out a decent amount. But now you're in a ballpark here in Texas that is very hitter friendly. So I'm going to stay away from Dylan Bundy because I think he's at a bigger risk of not giving up 2 solo home runs and getting 8 Ks, but more so giving up 4 home runs. Maybe not that much, right? But he does give up 1.1 or 1.98 home runs per 9. So realistically, this guy's in a situation where he'll probably give up 3 home runs today. And I don't want a piece of that against this Texas team. Devin Smeltzer. I believe he's only pitched a couple of times, right? The Smelter man, if not just once. Minnesota versus Cleveland. Yeah, he pitched once, and he pitched really good. He got 7 Ks. He went deep into the game, got himself a win, I believe. Or maybe not a win, but he pitched really well. So Devin Smeltzer today, now against Cleveland. He's in a good spot. The 1-game sample is something that I have to break down into a little bit more. He got hit hard in that 1 game, but we really can't look into this. Got 7 Ks, which was nice to see. He faces a team today in Cleveland that just doesn't have any pop, and they strike out a ton. So Devin Smeltzer, as of right now, I have to look more into him at 7,500. He's interesting. So just to recap in the 7K range, I would rather stack against Jared Eichhoff. Chase Anderson is meh. I probably don't play him. I'm going to fade Dylan Bundy. Do not play him. And Devin Smeltzer is worth a look and at least somebody to dive deeper into. 6K range, and like I said, I wasn't gonna go through all the pitchers, and I did. But quickly, 6K range, there's a couple of pitchers in here. Guys to just kind of target, I guess. I'm probably going to be targeting not to play or pitch Drew Smyly. He's a slight favorite, but he's not even working into the 5th inning, so I don't want that. Pablo Lopez is actually averaging 5.2 innings per game, but he has a very tough matchup today against Milwaukee. I don't want this at all. Milwaukee does strike out a decent amount of the time, but they have so much pop. There's no way I'm going to get to Pablo Lopez today. That 5.2 is probably the best, his ceiling in terms of how deep he can go into this game. If he's not going to get into the 5th, which I don't really see him doing that, there's really no reason to play him. Steve Brault against Atlanta. Look, this guy will probably go 3 innings, so I don't really want any of that as well. And then you have this last guy, a couple of guys, Genesis Cabrera coming off of his first start where he didn't really pitch too much. He was more so an opener, so about 3 innings. Now he gets a Cincinnati team that has a decent amount of pop. Look, I just don't think he goes deep enough. I don't want any Genesis Cabrera. And Taylor Clark, similar thing. The matchup is just too bad. So the 6K range, I don't want anybody there. If you were to take a flyer all the way down, for me, it would be Ronaldo Lopez at 5,200. Like I said, that's where I'm at on this slate. That's a quick deep dive into it. 15-game slate. It's pretty big. I have to break down some more stuff. Maybe I'll go live before lock tonight and talk about my bats. So thank you guys. Thank you girls so much. My name's Sal. Hope you enjoyed the video. Peace out, gang.